Usually when we study a massive historical shift, we kind of have the luxury of time. Like, we get to look at it like a fossil in a museum.
Right. It's been dusted off and categorized.
Exactly. It sits quietly behind this thick pane of glass for us to analyze at our own pace. But looking at the artificial intelligence industry right now, it feels, nothing like a museum. We are trying to draw a map of a continent while the tectonic plates are still just violently crashing into each other beneath our feet.
Oh, absolutely.
The landscape is being entirely rewired mid-flight, and as it turns out, it is being heavily litigated.
Which is exactly what makes this such a fascinating moment to try and make sense of it all.
Yeah.
We're watching the absolute definition of, building the airplane while flying it.
Yeah.
All while simultaneously dealing with this Category 5 hurricane of corporate trauma.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are exploring a single, incredibly dense, and just completely revealing source. We are looking at the Tech Reader AI Digest Weekly Recap.
Written by Aaron Rose.
Right, published on May 16th, 2026. The mission for this deep dive is to unpack one of the most explosive weeks in AI history, so May 11th through the 15th. We want to connect the dots between these bitter boardroom betrayals. Yeah, so the Musk versus OpenAI trial is entering its final chapter. Let's start the deep dive right there, because Aaron calls this the billionaire parade.
It really is.
We see Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, taking the stand, and he testifies that Microsoft recognized roughly $9.5 billion in revenue through their partnership with OpenAI.
That is a staggering number for a single partnership.
Mind-blowing. And yet, according to his sworn testimony, Elon Musk never once reached out to him to voice any concerns about that massive deal.
Which is wild, right? Because that detail alone completely recontextualizes the core of Musk's lawsuit.
Yeah.
The whole suit heavily revolves around allegations of mission betrayal and corporate overreach. You would assume a $9.5 billion revenue stream would trigger at least a phone call if someone actually believed a founding mission was being hijacked.
You'd think so.
But as explosive as the financial numbers are, the internal governance revelations are what truly steal the show in Oakland.
Oh, you're referring to Ilya Sutskever taking the stand.
Yeah, he takes the stand and drops an absolute bombshell right into the public record. Sutskever testifies that he spent an entire year assembling a 52-page dossier.
Wait, 52 pages?
52 pages, documenting what he explicitly called Sam Altman's consistent pattern of lying. He actually wanted Altman ousted a full 12 months before that infamous chaotic firing week back in November 2023.
Okay, let's pause and just think about the sheer scale of a 52-page dossier. That isn't just a disgruntled memo.
No, or a quick list of grievances.
Right. To fill 52 pages with a pattern of lying, you are talking about someone logging daily interactions, analyzing meeting minutes, dissecting Slack transcripts over the course of a year.
It's intense surveillance.
It's wild. And the recap reveals something else from those 5 days in November when Altman was briefly ousted. This detail absolutely blew my mind. During the peak of that chaos, the OpenAI board actually reached out to their biggest rival, Anthropic.
Yep.
And they proposed a merger that would put OpenAI's operations under Anthropic's leadership. Even Sutskever testified he was very unhappy with this idea. This is unbelievable.
It's like finding out the Beatles almost replaced Paul McCartney with the Rolling Stones mid-tour. It fundamentally rewrites our understanding of the panic happening behind closed doors that week. But, what does Ilya's 52-page dossier tell us about the actual stability of these AI giants we rely on?
What's fascinating here is that this cuts far deeper than corporate gossip. Sworn testimony has now codified an alternative history of AI. We trust these specific organizations with massive amounts of proprietary enterprise data.
Right, healthcare infrastructure, financial modeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yet, under oath, we are learning their internal structures were incredibly fragile. They were governed by secret dossiers and panic-induced late-night merger proposals. It completely shatters the illusion of the calm, calculating, omniscient tech giant.
Yeah, and while Sutskever was up there meticulously documenting the past, Sam Altman had to take the stand to defend his present reality. Reading through the recap of the testimony, there's this great visual detail. Altman is sitting there in a blue suit, initially very quiet, clearly bracing for a brutal cross-examination.
Oh, for sure.
And his core defense was surprisingly bold. He argued he didn't steal a charity. He said Musk abandoned it.
Yeah, Altman basically framed his entire narrative around survival. He testified that once Musk stopped funding the organization, Pivoting to a for-profit structure wasn't some greedy cash grab.
Right.
It was the only viable path to keep building competitive AI. The compute costs were just too astronomical to rely entirely on nonprofit donations.
Because you cannot build a trillion-dollar intelligence layer on a charity budget.
Exactly.
Then there was this moment Altman described as hair-raising. He testified about Musk demanding majority control of OpenAI early on. When some of the co-founders pushed back and asked Musk what would happen to that absolute control if he died, Musk suggested he might just pass it down to his children.
Wow.
Altman said that ended the conversation for him. He was extremely uncomfortable with the idea of artificial general intelligence becoming a family heirloom.
Which brings us to the philosophical crux of the trial, really. This is a battle over who gets to dictate the future of this technology. You have the ideal of AI as an open public good clashing directly with the reality of dynastic assets and the billions of dollars required to actually build the foundation models.
And under cross-examination, Musk's attorney really starts pressing Altman. They bring up articles questioning if he can be trusted, and they ask him point blank, have you misled people with whom you do business?
This is the big moment.
Yeah, Aaron calls his response the quote of the week. Altman didn't offer a specific line-by-line denial of the charges. He didn't just say no. Instead, he said, I believe I am an honest and trustworthy business person.
It's such a carefully worded response.
It's wild to me that his defense to allegations of lying wasn't a direct denial, but a philosophical statement of self-belief. I mean, is a philosophical statement like that actually going to sway an advisory jury?
Well, you have to view that phrasing through a legal lens. Saying, I believe I am, protects you from perjury in a way that a flat no might not.
Especially if there is a 52-page dossier sitting in the evidence box detailing hundreds of subjective interactions.
Precisely. The 9-person advisory jury is being asked to weigh a technical breach of a founding mission against the intensely practical, cutthroat reality of building a competitive lab.
Which perfectly tees up the closing arguments. Musk's attorney, Stephen Mallow, hammered away on the themes of mission betrayal and personal enrichment. But OpenAI's attorney, Sarah Eddy, delivered a brutal counterpunch that made it deeply personal.
It was intense.
She said to the jury, even the people who work for him, even the mother of his children, can't back his story.
Taking a highly technical trial about corporate charters and ending it on a deeply personal note about someone's family dynamics is a massive escalation.
Yeah. And there's a wild geographic irony to those closing arguments, too. Musk wasn't even in the courtroom in Oakland to hear them. Aaron Rose points out he was in China with the Trump trade delegation.
Yeah.
And just as a quick side note for you listening, we're laying out this timeline exactly as Aaron reported it in the source text. We do not have a horse in this political race, and we aren't endorsing any viewpoints.
Definitely not.
Our goal is simply to follow the data and the events as they were documented impartially.
And speaking of following the data, while OpenAI's leadership was physically stuck in that Oakland courtroom arguing over who controlled the history of the company, Anthropic was quietly capturing the present market.
Oh man, let's get out of the courtroom and into the actual tech market, because Wednesday of this week brought a massive reality check. We're talking about the Ramp AI Index.
This is huge.
This index tracks actual corporate credit card spending across over 50,000 U.S. businesses. And this data proves that Anthropic has officially passed OpenAI in enterprise adoption. Claude is sitting at 34.4%, and ChatGPT has fallen to 32.3%. Anthropic has literally quadrupled its enterprise adoption in a single year.
And the engine driving that massive growth is incredibly specific. It's Claude Code. The index notes that Claude Code now accounts for 4% of all GitHub public commits worldwide.
Just to ground that for a second for you listening, a commit is basically a developer saving a new chunk of work to the master blueprint of a software project, right?
Exactly.
So 4% of all the code being saved and published globally is now being generated by this specific Anthropic tool.
Precisely. And that 4% figure doubled in just a single month. It shows an exponential curve in developer reliance on AI assistance.
Which leads to this unbelievable disclosure from Uber's CTO. Uber burned through their entire 2026 AI budget in just 4 months.
4 months.
Yeah, they spent it almost entirely on Claude Code and Cursor. Now, 70% of their committed code is being generated by AI.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that.
70%. Here's where it gets really interesting. If a tech giant like Uber is burning its whole yearly budget in 4 months, are we seeing an AI spending bubble, or is this just the new, unavoidable cost of doing business?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at what the Ramp Index actually represents to answer that. This is hard credit card spending data.
Right.
This isn't a survey of what CEOs plan to do next year or some theoretical benchmark hype. It is actual money leaving bank accounts. And the reason enterprises don't view this as a bubble is the underlying math. Take a look at the strategic alliance Anthropic just announced with PwC.
Oh, that expansion is massive. They are bringing 30,000 certified Claude professionals to 364,000 employees globally.
The outcomes of that PwC deployment are exactly what justify the Uber-level spending. Insurance underwriting processes are dropping from 10 weeks down to 10 days.
Wow.
Cybersecurity incident responses are dropping from hours down to minutes. When a company realizes they can save 9 weeks of labor costs on complex insurance underwriting, that mathematically justifies almost any software subscription budget you can imagine.
That makes total sense.
The return on investment isn't hypothetical anymore, it's immediate. The enterprise wave didn't pause to wait and see what the jury in Oakland would decide.
No, definitely not. But OpenAI isn't taking this market shift lying down, though. They fired back with some incredibly aggressive product launches. They shipped Codex Mobile, putting it right inside the ChatGPT app on iOS and Android. And crucially, they included it on the free plans.
A huge move.
Yeah, and the clever part here is the architecture. They are keeping files locally on your host machine, while the phone acts as a supervision and steering layer.
That architecture solves a massive enterprise hurdle.
Right, let's break down what that steering layer actually means. Basically, your phone acts as the user interface and the rule enforcer. You use it to guide the AI, but the actual proprietary code or sensitive files never leave your local laptop to go sit on OpenAI servers.
It creates a strict privacy wall.
Exactly.
Which is exactly why they were able to confirm 4 million weekly users for Codex so quickly, and why they simultaneously launched IPA-compliant local deployment.
Ah, for healthcare.
Yes. By solving the privacy issue with that steering layer, they finally cleared the path to push deep into the healthcare sector, where data security is heavily regulated.
And on top of the product launches, Sam Altman went on the offensive with a vicious pricing strategy. He publicly offered 2 months of free Codex usage to anyone switching from competitors.
Cutthroat.
So cutthroat. And the timing was ruthless. He dropped that offer the exact day after reports came out that Anthropic had raised its prices.
Of course he did.
This pricing battle between OpenAI and Anthropic is like 2 gas stations across the street from each other, slashing prices to puns to win over drivers. But the real winner in a price war isn't the gas station, it's the company drilling the oil.
That is a perfect analogy.
Which brings us to Friday.
Yeah.
And the company drilling the AI oil right now is Cerebra Systems. I was looking at the IPO numbers and my jaw hit the floor. The market completely lost its mind over this hardware.
And rightfully so when you look at the scale. This is the biggest U.S. tech IPO since Uber, all the way back in 2019. They debuted at $185 a share. It opened at $350, peaked at $386, and closed up 68% at $311.
That gives this AI chipmaker a market cap of roughly $95 billion. They raised $5.55 billion in a single day.
The reason the market is pouring billions into this IPO is the underlying technology they are pricing in, the wafer scale engine 3.
The WSE3.
Exactly. This specific chip is 58 times larger than a leading GPU, and it delivers inference up to 15 times faster.
Let's make sure we separate the technical terms here. Most people know that training an AI takes massive data centers running for months. But inference is what happens after the training, right?
That's right.
It's the AI actually doing the work, receiving a prompt, and generating the answer in real time.
Exactly. Inference is the real-world application speed. And the reason making the chip 58 times physically larger matters so much comes down to basic physics.
Okay.
Normally, you string hundreds of smaller chips together, but when you do that, data has to travel across a motherboard to get from one chip to the next.
Which takes time.
Right. That travel time creates a massive bottleneck.
Yeah.
But when you have 58 times more area on one giant continuous piece of silicon, the data stays on one massive superhighway.
Oh, I see.
It never has to jump across a motherboard, which eliminates the bottleneck entirely and gives you that 15x speed increase.
That is incredible. This IPO completely validates the physical constraints of the AI boom. The market is looking at the demands of Claude Code, writing 70% of Uber software, the demands of Codex Mobile running on millions of phones, the demands of the PwC underwriting deployment.
Yeah.
They are realizing that the silicon required to power all of this is the single greatest bottleneck on the planet. And here is where the week ties itself together with a perfect bow. The fingerprints of the Oakland trial are all over this NASDAQ IPO.
Yes, they are.
Greg Brockman, a key figure at OpenAI, was cross-examined in court about his financial ties. It turns out he holds a personal stake in Cerebras.
Unbelievable timing.
Right. He holds a personal stake in a company that just went public and hit a $95 billion valuation, right alongside OpenAI's own $20 billion compute commitment to that very same hardware. Is Brockman's dual role a massive conflict of interest, or is this just the tangled, incestuous web of how Silicon Valley works?
It is the absolute definition of the Silicon Valley tangled web. What's truly remarkable is that the federal courthouse in Oakland and the NASDAQ floor in New York are essentially reading the exact same financial documents, just from completely different angles.
That's such a good point.
The court is scrutinizing these relationships for governance breaches and mission betrayal, while the NASDAQ is looking at those exact same relationships and seeing guaranteed multi-billion-dollar revenue streams.
Yeah.
What Cerebras proved on Friday is that the public markets are finally showing they're ready to price the massive AI infrastructure built out at scale. The big dollars are officially moving from private venture capital into the public sphere.
Which means things are only going to accelerate from here. Looking ahead to next week, Aaron sets the stage for even more chaos. On Monday, that 9-person advisory jury in Oakland begins their deliberations. We'll see how they weigh Altman's philosophical self-belief against Musk's claims of mission betrayal.
It's going to be tense. And by Tuesday, the entire industry focus shifts to Google I/O. The recap notes a new Gemini model is expected, reportedly falling into the GPT 5.5 class.
Okay.
But interestingly, internal sources are saying it falls short of Anthropic's new Mythos model.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Mythos has quietly become the new industry benchmark that every single lab is now trying to chase.
And we're also expecting to see Google Books, Android XR smart glasses, Aluminium OS, and potentially AI mode becoming the absolute default search experience for billions of people.
It's nonstop.
It really is. So what does this all mean? Why does a 52-page dossier from a disgruntled co-founder or a chipmaker's IPO matter to you listening right now?
It's a great question.
It matters because whether you're casually using ChatGPT to draft a quick email to your boss or you are a CTO running a massive enterprise tech stack, the tools you rely on daily are not being built in a vacuum. They are being actively shaped right this second by this exact collision of courtroom egos, aggressive pricing wars, and sheer physical hardware constraints.
The history isn't behind glass. It is actively rendering on your phone.
Exactly.
And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought that builds on everything we've unpacked from Aaron's Digest today.
Yeah.
We learned that AI is now writing 70% of Uber's code. We learned it is evaluating complex insurance risks for PwC in days instead of weeks.
Yeah.
If AI is writing the code that builds the next generation of AI, and AI is evaluating the financial risk of these massive tech companies, at what point does human enterprise spending just become AI agents buying from and negotiating with other AI agents?
Oh, wow.
If the software is writing itself and justifying its own budget with its own efficiency metrics, where does the human actually sit in the loop by 2027?
Wow. We started by talking about trying to map a continent while the tectonic plates are still crashing into each other. It sounds like pretty soon the continent might just be drawing its own maps.
It really does.
That's all for today's deep dive. We'll catch you next time.